Bad Omens came onto the radar of many with Just Pretend, which took TikTok by storm, bringing a legion of new fans to their door. But what the world didn't see about the overnight success was the years of sweat, blood and tears that Bad Omens poured into their craft. From humble beginnings as gritty tour openers to selling out their own headlining tours, Bad Omens never gave up. And when success finally came knocking, it brought with it a whole new set of challenges that threatened to derail everything they'd worked so hard for. Bad Omens is a Los Angeles-based metalcore band known for their creativity and being able to seamlessly blend heavy riffs with powerful vocals. I say metalcore band very, very loosely there. You can't really define this band at this current time. The band was formed in 2015 by singer Noah Sebastian and guitarist Nick Ruffalo. The band had a few spots here and there, but fast forward to October 26, 2016, Sumerian Records, who just signed Bad Omens, were holding their 10 Years in Black tour, celebrating, you guessed it, 10 years of Sumerian Records. The tour was headlined by Asking Alexandria, with the likes of I See Stars, Upon a Burning Body and After the Burial, with the relative newcomers Bad Omens given the responsibility of opening act for the Mammoth Tour. When I say relative newcomers, Noah Sebastian, the lead vocalist and co-founder, was just 20 years old at the time. This didn't mean shit though, as the band really made their mark and set the tone for years to come. As previously mentioned, Bad Omens was formed in 2015 by singer Noah Sebastian and guitarist Nick Ruffalo. They were later joined by Joakim Karlsson and Nick Folio. The band has had some lineup changes over the years, but these are the current members. Bad Omens draws inspiration from a variety of genres, including metal, alternative rock, and post-hardcore. Their music is characterized by heavy guitar riffs, intense drumming, and emotional lyrics. To be honest, this is kind of putting them in a box, which isn't true to how they are now. It's pretty much anything and everything how they feel. Earlier in their career, they drew comparisons to one of my personal favorites, Bring Me the Horizon, who themselves really defined the genre of metalcore, and with Noah's harsh vocals being almost identical to Bring Me's frontman Ollie Sykes.
Don't ever let me be. It's like I'm sleepwalking.
In some of the singles from the self-titled album in 2016. And while the Bad Omens album from 2016 has some bangers that to this day I'd say are still praised heavily by the fans, the band, and Noah specifically, felt the songs were too safe and on the nose with regards to some of the bands people was comparing us to, and feels that by new fans listening to the older records first, they will have a preconceived notion of who the band are, which they claim could not be any further from the Bad Omens that we hear today. And it's kind of funny because this is where the Bring Me comparisons kind of come full circle, as Noah discusses how Bring Me was a big inspiration and says they are basically a whole genre of their own, while also saying if we could reach a place where we're thought of in the same way, then that would be amazing. Now, don't get it twisted though, it's a mutual respect between the two bands, with Ollie Sykes as recently as a month ago posting artificial suicide to his Instagram story. A nod to potentially the next in line, and who knows, maybe even a future collab. The band draw from many different influences, with guitarist Jolly Carlson also dabbling with creating house music too, which funnily enough can often start as the foundations of a Bad Omens track, with the rest of the boys jumping on the track and creating such a unique style, which is why it's so difficult to specifically put Bad Omens into one genre. You could argue metalcore as a whole, but there's so many tracks that just don't fit into this from the band. Bad Omens released 4 studio albums to date, which is a self-titled Bad Omens in 2016, Finding God Before God Finds Me in 2019, and then the unplugged version of that in 2020. But it's their most recent 2022 release, The Death of Peace of Mind, that was the breakthrough for Bad Omens, with 3 songs from the album already clocking well over 20 million Spotify streams alone. This was huge for the band, considering it was the first time they went balls deep with being experimental. Combine that with Just Pretend going viral weeks before their first headlining tour, and it was really the perfect storm. Bad Omens has toured extensively over the years, both in the United States and internationally. They've performed at a variety of music festivals, including Warped Tour, but one tour they famously didn't end up doing was the Misery Will Find You tour back in 2018, in which Bad Omens were supposed to be the support act for the co-headlining tour of the Amity Affliction and Senses Fail, with the latter throwing some serious shade on Twitter after Bad Omens pulled out the day after the tour was announced. This was then further provoked a year later when the Amity Affliction's Joel Birch poked fun at Noah out of nowhere, prompting a response response from the vocalist that shut down any of the bullshit rumors about the logo not being a big enough font on the poster and gave everyone an insight into the artist's struggles at the time. And this isn't the first controversy surrounding Bad Omens that's not really brought on by the band themselves. A running joke, and if I'm honest, I push the narrative on Twitter too, is that Noah and the boys are all precious babies and they must be protected at all costs. To say Bad Omens has a diehard fan base is the understatement of the year, and at times it gets borderline obsessive behavior. This is all despite Noah himself specifically stating he doesn't want to be adored, he doesn't want baby pictures shared across the internet without his consent, but the less Noah says, the more the obsessive fan base will run with it and try to fill in the blanks based on their perception of him. And this is a direct quote from Noah: "They put this weird identity on me that might be fun for them, but it isn't very accurate. I don't want someone to make me their whole life. That's not very healthy for anyone." And you don't have to look far for numerous examples of fans running with a false narrative. One fan created a fake story about seeing Bad Omens lead singer Noah holding hands with his girlfriend at a cafe. I'm not going to be a dick, so I've blurred their details as I have no idea if they're a minor or not. The fan shared the story anonymously on Facebook and then repeated it on Twitter, causing some fans to believe it and condemn harassment towards the supposed girlfriend. It suggested that the fan may have created the story to get a reaction from Noah's team and to find out if he actually has a girlfriend or not. The Bad Omens tour manager later called out the fan, who subsequently deleted their account completely. This is a perfect example of not believing everything on social media and highlights the obsessive nature of some fans towards the band. Many have asked me to speak about this, but when I was looking into it, it does seem like it revolves around a minor, so I'm not going to talk shit on a kid. But essentially, some of the quote-unquote fandom were creating fake scenarios about fans getting the boobs out to the band while they were trapped on the Shiprock tour this year, with the rumours gaining so much traction that the band had to actually tweet it out just to cut out all the bullshit. Add to this, apparently fans finding out Noah's personal address as well and leaving gifts, and it's just crossing the line. And it just doesn't stop with an unhealthy obsession with the band's personal life, as a select few seem to take the delusion to the next level, which at times can completely undermine the band's success. I think it's safe to say that some fans refuse to accept that Bad Omens is no longer a niche band. Another example of this is the recent tour selling out in seconds. Immediately, the loudest portion of the fan base was up in arms, claiming the only reason it sold out was due to scalpers and not due to the success of the band. I'm not going to go too in depth with this, mainly because this Reddit comment flamed in the replies and summed up everything I wanted to say regarding the issue. Oh, and don't even get me fucking started on the merch drops. That's a whole fucking conspiracy theory on its own. The Bad Omens fandom, especially on Twitter and Reddit, is a weird place right now, as you have a mix of the OG fans, combined with the TikTok influx, and you know, the normal fans who just enjoy the music included within it too. They all seem to be battling against each other non-stop, and again, it just kind of detracts attention from the band that they're meant to be supporting. So, what's next for Bad Omens? Well, the grind doesn't stop, considering they're touring pretty much the whole of May to June, and then they top the year off in September by taking part in the absolutely stacked Blue Ridge Rock Festival in September. But the most exciting part, it sounds like they've finally found their unique sound and are comfortable in expressing it, so we can expect more experimental bangers on the way. Sleep Token is a complete enigma, with the band being completely anonymous and refusing to do any interviews. But this hasn't hurt the band. If anything, it's actually pushed them even further. They don't need to promote their own material, their fans do it for them, leading to a huge rise in popularity. So how did Sleep Token go from a completely unknown band to selling out Wembley Arena and singing to a crowd full of worshippers? This is the mysterious rise of Sleep Token. The Mass Collective emerged from the shadows back in 2016, not just as a band, but a full-on spiritual experience, a journey into the unknown. As Sleep Token's popularity surged, fueled by unexpected releases like Chokehold and The Summoning, their online presence became a hub of intrigue. Maintaining an anonymous identity, the band's music transcended genre boundaries.
I made loving you a blood sport. I made loving you a blood sport.
Attracting a diverse and devoted fan base. The lore of Sleep Token traces back to a dream where Vessel, the lead vocalist, was visited by an ancient deity known as Sleep, promised glory and magnificence in exchange for unwavering devotion. Each song became a dedication to this elusive deity, a token to Sleep, you could say, creating a narrative that explores the toxic relationship between Vessel and Sleep. This part of the lore is why Sleep Token's lyrics translate over so effortlessly into people's lives, as many people are able to relate to the toxic nature of being in a relationship you know you probably shouldn't be in. While comparisons to other masked acts like Slipknot and Ghost exist, Sleep Token's theatrics have a much subtler, darker, and richer mystique. Sleep Token's rise, fueled by organic growth and a deliberate effort to preserve their anonymity, turned them into major headliners, selling out shows and reaching audiences globally. While Sleep Token maintains an air of secrecy, there are actually 2 interviews that exist with Sleep Token. One is very brief, discussing the lore around the song Jaws, while the other is the only confirmation of the band's origins. 2 did recently do an interview with Drumeo, technically making it the 3rd interview ever, and it's a sick video too, so go check it out when you're done here.
I am here, and this is an offering from Drumeo.
In an exclusive conversation with Metal Hammer back in 2017, Vessel sheds light on the band's commitment to the ancient deity Sleep. The interview delves into the dream encounter with Sleep, the significance of the masked identity, and the markings on Vessel's mask, revealing an acronym in ancient runes that spell out Sleep Token. Despite the fame, Sleep Token insists that their identities are not important. What matters is the music and the message. The interview dismisses comparisons to other bands, emphasizing Sleep Token's unique approach and the dedication to delivering a profound message. From the outside looking in, some find it crazy that people can be this deep into a band that does no interviews, does not talk, doesn't do meet and greets, pretty much remains completely anonymous, but yet somehow have such a strong connection with the band through their music. And if anything, this is what Sleep Token has set out to do from day one, to make it about the message, the music, not their individual fame. But upon doing my research for this video, I did manage to find one extremely rare moment of Vessel breaking character, as he addressed not only a fan, but all of the band's worshippers during a live show in Lafayette back in 2022. I'll play a short clip, but the full video is available over on Metal Kitty's channel.
Some time ago, I was given a message. It was a message that originated from one among you. Someone possessed by a strong desire to tell me something. The message read very simply: you saved me. I am nothing without this music. I am nothing without this mask. So in this sense, the message I received was true, but only in an inverse sense. The truth is, I did not save anybody. You saved me.
The Sleep Token community thrives on platforms like Twitter, Reddit, and Discord, where fans dissect lyrics, symbolism, and cryptic Easter eggs found in visuals and merch. The fan base has gotten ridiculously big over the last few months, with thousands of new members joining the Discord alone after the release of Chokehold. While Chokehold may have been the initial catalyst for the band's surge in popularity, the summoning literally took them to a different universe. Sleep Token dropped the summoning a day after dropping Chokehold, sending fans into a frenzy and, more importantly, pushing Sleep Token even more into the mainstream, with the summoning going viral on TikTok. The band then even started trending on Twitter, bringing even more listeners in, and absolutely skyrocketed their monthly Spotify listeners from 250,000 a month to over 1.6 million listeners a month, an insane growth rate. In the midst of fan speculation surrounding Vessel's identity, there is a shared message within the community: respect for the anonymity the band maintains. The focus is on the shared experience of the rituals and the communal expression of emotion rather than the individual behind the mask. Bad Omens fans could never understand boundaries.
Oh, DD, oh!
Out of respect, I'm not going to talk about Vessel's true identity. The information is really not that hard to find, but honestly, do you really need to know? Just respect the band's wishes. Sleep Token's masks are more than simply just a fashion statement. It kind of shows the true dedication they have to the brand and lore. I mean, just think about it for a second. The choice to remain faceless and nameless amplifies the emotional connection between the band and its audience, drawing inspiration from the traditions of mass metal acts like Slipknot and Ghost. And on that matter, pretty much every band that sports a mask, we still know who they are. They still promote their own personal brand, and they have a level of fame directed to their own solo projects. We don't get that with Sleep Token. I'm sure every member in the band could have brand deals coming out of their arse if they took off the mask and promoted their own individual brands, but the fact that they don't shows how committed to the band they are. Keeping this level of anonymity, this allows room for interpretation, which I feel personally is a massive factor in their success. It allows fans to use their imagination, build an image in their head as to what fits their mind, kind of similar to how Court's husband found huge success despite being completely anonymous. Fans find personal meaning in the ambiguous lyrics and in the atmospheric compositions. The band's anonymity, far from being a gimmick, becomes kind of a safe space within the fan base, fostering discussions, lore exploration, and a shared celebration of the unknown. I could be completely misinterpreting this, but I see sleep kind of as a metaphor for a lover, exploring all the good, bad, and toxic parts of a relationship, which is why so many people can relate to what is quote-unquote an anonymous band. I mean, even in the lead vocalist's name, Vessel, it's kind of a hint. He's exactly that. He's just simply a vessel providing you with lyrics for you to make your own interpretation and journey based on your past experiences. It's not about the band, it's about you, the listener. As Sleep Token continues to rise, their unique approach to anonymity stands as a testament to making it just about the music. They're moving on to the next stage of their career, literally selling out arenas and really bringing a fresh new life into music. In a world where identities and influences are pushed into the spotlight, Sleep Token's commitment to letting the music speak for itself has forged a community that finds solace and strength in the unknown. The allure of the mass figures, the depth of their lore, and the emotional connection of their music means Sleep Token will be around for a very long time. Bring Me the Horizon has become a household name across many different genres, to the point where their earlier music is unrecognizable to what they're releasing today. But the change wasn't exactly met with open arms, and Bring Me has had to literally kick the door down between gatekeeping genres to get to where they are now, from collabing with Baby Metal, Ed Sheeran, and even Lil Uzi Vert. This is how Bring Me the Horizon changed music forever. Bring Me the Horizon was formed in Sheffield, Yorkshire, in 2004. The lineup consisted of baby-faced Oliver Sykes on vocals, Liam Elliott and Curtis Ward on guitar, Matt Keane on bass, and Matt Nichols on drums. The band's name actually came from the GOAT-tier film Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl, when Jack Sparrow is quoted as saying,
"Now, bring me that horizon."
Which inspired the band's name. Much better than the other option, which was Murder on the Dance Floor. Potential for a Sophie Ellis-Bextor collab, I guess. At the time, Bring Me was just a bunch of rowdy teenagers looking for an outlet, and their formation led to the band playing local shows. And while the typical media didn't really rate Bring Me the Horizon, it wasn't long before they became MySpace sensations. RIP Bring Me's MySpace, by the way. With the release of their 2004 EP, this is what The Edge of Your Seat was made for. At one point, they were literally the kings of MySpace, becoming the most played artist on the platform, beating out the likes of Coldplay, Lily Allen, and Adele. I don't even know how to define this EP. It's some parts metalcore, some parts deathcore, but a bit of everything. It's just a raw Bring Me sound that new listeners would never have guessed was from the same band. Debate all you want about the EP, but for a bunch of 15 and 17-year-olds to release something of this quality at that time, it kind of gave an insight as to how special this band would eventually be. In fact, you'd be surprised how many people only liked this version of Bring Me, with some of them suggesting if they would have stuck to this sound, they could have been one of the best deathcore bands ever. But Fate and Ollie's vocal cords had different plans. More on that later. Fast forward 2 years, and Bring Me gets signed by Visible Noise Records and releases their debut album, Count Your Blessings. And this album, holy shit, is it an arguing point with Bring Me's fans about whether it's some of their best work or not. Some claim this was the last good album that Bring Me actually released, while newer fans can't stand the album. The album's kind of a blend of metalcore and deathcore again, but a much, much heavier emphasis on the deathcore aspects. Say what you want about the album, but it was a stepping stone to take Bring Me to the next level. The album is full of heavy breakdowns, blistering guitar riffs, and guttural vocals from lead singer Ollie Sykes. The album's lyrics were full of references to death, violence, and sex. You know, the typical deathcore album vibe. I mean, just look at this song title and you kind of get the gist of it. I missed out on this era, but from what I heard, the live shows were incredible, and along with that, the boundaries were pushed maybe a bit too far sometimes, as frontman Ollie Sykes was known for engaging in destructive behaviour, whatever that means, and whenever he wasn't telling people to
Pull your fucking tampons out!
he was forming vicious mosh pits, which led to the band being banned from some venues. The band created a chaotic image of themselves, with accusations of promoting violence, and the band being very open about their alcohol and drug abuse.
I'm rapist.
And while this helped the band grow, controversy soon followed. Coming off a year where the debut album earned the band Best British Newcomers at the Kerrang Awards in 2006, which was the same year Lost Prophets took home the Best British Band, which if you don't know why that's awkward, you should check out my other video when this is done. The bands were starting to gain huge traction. Combine this with the band's bad boy image, and it's safe to say they were a hit with the ladies. They had a small cult-like following, which is ironic, considering Ollie was sporting this vest last night. But it seems like at points the lines were blurred, as a serious allegation was made against the band back in 2007. Allegedly, after a gig at Rock City in Nottingham, that's my local venue, so shout out them, an employee of the venue recalls two girls getting on the band's tour bus, and allegedly, when Ollie tried it on with one of the girls, he reportedly called them dykes and took a literal piss on them, while again, reportedly, one of the other band members chucked an empty bottle of Jägermeister at one of the girls, causing this nasty injury. This led to Ollie Sykes' arrest and a ban from the venue, with Visible Noise Records releasing this statement denying any wrongdoing from the frontman. Sykes was initially charged with common assault, but the charge was dropped by the CPS due to insufficient evidence. So it's extremely important to note that all of this is an allegation. I'm not saying he didn't do it, I'm not saying he did. 2008 was the year that Bring Me really started to test the waters with different sounds and tones that weren't the usual metal or deathcore choices, and began chucking in a load of melodic and experimental elements into their music. Suicide Season is Bring Me's second album, with this being the first significant shift in the band's musical style, incorporating all elements of deathcore, metalcore, experimental, you name it, and was even the first album to feature a guest vocalist. The band started pissing around with ambient interludes and electronic elements, which really demonstrated the band's willingness to experiment and evolve. To no surprise with an album titled Suicide Season, lyrically, the album explored all aspects of self-harm, depression, and personal battles with mental health. The album was met with mixed reviews by critics, with some praising their willingness to experiment and explore, while others felt that the band had drifted away from their metalcore base. These feelings were reflected by the fans too, which started the whole "I miss the old Bring Me" complaint that still exists to this day. Despite this, it marked a transitional phase for the band, setting the tone that regardless of what you thought, Bring Me was going to make the music that they wanted to. Oh, and bonus point, the first ever guest vocalist just happened to be Architect's own Sam Carter, who featured on the song The Sadness Will Never End, although due to featuring a quote from the film Apocalypse Now, part of his feature had to be removed. Maybe one of the longest album names in history. There Is a Hell, Believe Me, I've Seen It. There Is a Heaven, Let's Keep It a Secret is Bring Me's third studio album that continued the band's evolution from their early death and metalcore days. The album was the first time Bring Me truly started adding orchestral elements with arrangements and choirs, and added sort of a cinematic feeling to the album. During the recording of this album, cracks started to form in the band, which led to guitarist Curtis Ward departing the band for personal reasons. But dig a little deeper, and it seems that Curtis didn't leave, but rather was kicked due to a number of reasons. Fast forward a bit to 2011, and in an interview with Rock Freaks, Matt and Lee were asked how Ward's departure affected the recording of There Is a Hell, to which Matt was very quick to tell the interviewer that they actually kicked him from the band due to not writing, even going as far as saying Ward only contributed 2 riffs to the whole Suicide Season album, often isolating himself from the rest of the band and being very open about his hatred for touring. With Ward gone, all of the pressure was on Lee as a solo guitarist to finish Suicide Season. Add to this the stress of Ollie losing his vocals in the studio, meaning that once their studio time was up, they were left with 3 unfinished songs without vocals, leading to Bring Me having to delay the album release. This turned out to be a blessing in disguise though, as with the extra time, the band was able to refine their evolving sound more, and the result, an album that is seen as a pivotal point that served as a perfect bridge between their early metalcore days and into more alternative and accessible sounds. And with the band experimenting with different melodies and sounds, this would then lead to their next album, which is probably the most impactful and successful of theirs of all time. Following Ward's departure, Jonah Weinhofen joined the band as a rhythm guitarist in 2009, with Jonah previously touring alongside Bring Me in the past, and in Matt's own words, was a right cool dude and stuff. Jonah seemed to hit the ground running and gave the band a second wind, as he was extremely excited and involved in the process of contributing to There Is a Hell, which is a big change from their old guitarist Ward, who Lee said he physically couldn't sit in a room with and record with him as he'd just want to punch him. Sempiternal is Bring Me's fourth studio album, with the album showcasing a more polished and refined sound, with more emphasis on melodies and anthemic choruses, with the band heavily using synthesizers and atmospheric effects, combined with the band's signature aggression and emotional intensity. Past albums were extremely polarizing, as it always seemed to split the fan base, with one saying it wasn't heavy enough, on the flip side, it being too heavy for a wider audience, and Sempiternal seemed to be that perfect balance between the two. Even the name of the album, Sempiternal, which means eternal or everlasting, kind of hinted that this band will be around for a while and will continue to evolve. To this day, this album is held as Bring Me's best project and is my personal favourite too. The standout tracks are still heavily in many Bring Me fans' rotations to this day, with the album basically being a journey, as 1 minute you're ready to fuck shit up listening to House of Wolves, then the next minute you're crying in a corner listening to Hospital for Souls. Oh, and let's not forget the Giga Chad meme, Can You Feel My Heart, which recently blew up on TikTok. And in turn became Bring Me's most streamed song on Spotify. Shadow Moses was the song that got me aboard the Bring Me train, mainly due to the fact that I'm a Metal Gear Solid fanboy, and the sample of The Best Is Yet to Come takes me back to my childhood every time. But this was really the point in which Bring Me started experimenting more with mainstream references, and also was the first of many collabs with video game mastermind Hideo Kojima. The band underwent another significant change as rhythm guitarist Jonah decided to leave due to personal reasons, but the departure was conveniently timed with Jordan Fisher's arrival, who at the time was brought into the band as a keyboardist, but provided a significant impact to the band's sound to the point where he became a full-time member, which allegedly contributed to Jonah's decision to leave. This may be due to the band's decision to focus on a more experimental sound, with Fish often referred to as the mastermind behind the scenes. While Jonah was an extremely talented guitarist, he was more suited to a metalcore band. But in a recent interview with Club Good podcast, Jonah opened up about his short but influential time with the band and cited his edginess on Twitter as being one of the reasons for his downfall. Can't relate.
Like this weird time where they brought in Jordan, who was the guy that sort of replaced me, but not really. He became the keyboard player and did a lot of the songwriting and production. Yeah, I don't know. It was kind of weird. It ended up being kind of like closed door writing sessions where he and Ollie were working together a lot. You know, they were kind of like the party band and always like getting into some kind of controversy. And I kind of like got wrapped up in it all. And I'm like, oh, cool. Like I can, you know, suddenly all these people follow me on Twitter and like care about things I say. And I ended up just posting a bunch of shit. It started almost maybe hurting the band. The relationship kind of broke down. And then I ended up having a meeting with the manager. And he kind of gave me this list of things that they were unhappy about, and I didn't really get a chance to like fix it. It was just like, hey, they're not happy about this, oh, and by the way, like we think we're just gonna like part ways. Which at the time understandably left a bitter taste to the end of Jonah's involvement with Bring Me, but with Jordan's arrival sparked a whole new era for Bring Me the Horizon. That's the Spirit was Bring Me's fifth studio album released in 2015, which was a huge shift towards gaining more mainstream publicity, with the band's signature aggression taking a backseat and instead being replaced with cleaner vocals and catchy hooks. The new sound seemed to resonate with the public too. 2015 and 2016 wasn't exactly smooth sailing for Bring Me, as the now iconic feud between the band and Coldplay created numerous controversies while also further pushing the band into the public eye. Just a year before the album's release, an extremely emotional speech opened the window to the struggles not only Ollie had been facing, but the stress that his drug addiction had placed on the band and the ones he loved the most. At the 2014 Alternative Press Music Awards, Ollie spoke out about his ketamine addiction, saying the following.
I want to say something that I never thought I'd actually talk about. Before we wrote Sempiternal, I was a fucking drug addict. I was addicted to a drug called ketamine. I was on it for years and I was fucked off my head. My band wanted to kill me, my parents wanted to kill me, as well as my fucking band and my family. You guys were sending me, like, you had no fucking idea that I was in rehab, but you were sending me letters, you were sending me texts, you were sending me fucking emails. When I got out of that rehab, I didn't want to fucking scream anymore. I wanted to sing it from the fucking rooftops. And it's all thanks to you, so thank you very much.
The beef between the two bands seemed to be due to allegations made from Bring Me about Coldplay copying their Sempiternal artwork from their own album, Head Full of Dreams, both of which feature the Flower of Life. When asked about this, frontman Ollie Sykes said, if you Google Flower of Life, the first thing that comes up is Bring Me the Horizon, Sempiternal. It's like if you Google the images, someone's gonna have said something to them. But then he followed it up by saying, it's not ours. It's kind of cool, really. It's a cool thing that a band that big are also going to be sharing that with people. And that was seemingly the end of the feud. Well, until the Enemy Awards in 2016. Bring Me was performing their hit Happy Song from That's the Spirit when the performance just starts to turn very weird very quickly. Ollie seemed to be heavily under the influence of some substance, whether that's drugs or alcohol, and at one point during the song, he is seen leaving the stage and venturing into the crowd. Pretty normal stuff, but by chance, he happened to climb up onto Coldplay's table, who was also at the awards, and what happened next is iconic. Many were quick to jump to the conclusion that Bring Me knew exactly what they were doing and that the moment was pre-planned, despite Ollie's best efforts to deny this.
I had no sound in my ears, so I was like, well, there might be sound out there. There weren't sound out there. So I went out there and came back. As I came back, there were a table, which I got on. There weren't any sound on there, but it were a bit more like energetic up there. It was no way a protest to Coldplay.
Listen, I'm not buying it, but either way, it created one of the most badass moments in Bring Me the Horizon's history. Just a quick note to move away from the negativity. One of Bring Me's best performances came during a special charity event held by the band. In 2016, the band performed with a live orchestra at the Royal Albert Hall, one of the UK's most prestigious venues. It was a unique opportunity for the band to showcase their music in a different setting, and the results were incredible. The best part, the event was a fundraiser for the Teenage Cancer Trust, with all of those proceeds going to charity. The feedback for the event was amazing, with fans pleading with the band to release the live album, which the band ended up doing, and once again, all of the proceeds from the album went to the Teenage Cancer Trust. Honestly, it's one of my favourite Bring Me live performances, so when you're done with this video, go check it out. Ammo was released in 2019, and it was Bring Me's 6th studio album. This album is probably the most debated one among the Bring Me community, and for good reason. The album is a complete separation from anything Bring Me had ever previously done, with the band almost exclusively stepping away from any of their signature sounds and instead going the pop rock route, with Ammo's themes being centered around love, relationships, and mental health. This should come as no surprise considering the difficulties surrounding the frontman at the time. Ollie had previously been open about his struggles with drug addiction, but one thing he tried to keep in the dark, see what I did there, was the reason behind his marriage with his ex-wife ending in 2016, only a year after getting married. Many fans took to Reddit and social media to debate the reasons why, but Ollie simply refused to speak about it until the ex-wife in question's Instagram was hacked and proof of her cheating was leaked. Ollie said initially he wanted to lie and deny the rumors of her cheating, but once the ex-wife began talking about the rumors and confirm them, he had to admit to the world too that he had been cheated on. And this is how Ammo was born. It was essentially an outlet for Ollie to let it all out and move on, which is why it's such a polarizing album. On one hand, you have the fans that praise the album, with Ollie himself saying he didn't understand why people weren't connecting with a piece of work he was extremely proud of, and on the other, you have members of the band themselves admitting that this was the first album that the band tried to tick boxes to ensure mainstream success, which in fairness, it did exactly that, resulting in a #1 album and Grammy nominations. The album was one clearly held close to Ollie's heart, with the single Medicine written about the relationship he had with his ex-wife.
So I'm sorry for this. It might sting a bit.
Regardless of how critical some were towards Ammo, it was clearly a commercial success and opened the door to even more opportunities for Bring Me. The band knew they were going to get negative feedback from the early fans of Bring Me, even going as far to poke fun at the predicted reaction in heavy metal. criticism, and instead of being held back, Bring Me continued to go hard, so hard in fact that Ollie ended up rupturing his vocal cords back in 2019, resulting in cancelling US tour dates, panicking many fans if he would ever sing again. But Ollie silenced the critics and announced his return to the band very shortly after. And finally, we arrive at the current era of Bring Me, which to be honest is even more confusing than any of the other eras before. As of today, Bring Me can quite literally do whatever the fuck they want and are just releasing anything and everything that they feel like. Post-Human Survival Horror was an EP dropped by Bring Me in 2020 and truly was one of the most experimental projects, other than the Trippin' Balls EP, but I'm not educated enough to talk about that. Looking back at Post-Human, it's actually scary how ahead of the time that project was. I mean, quite literally, just take a look at Parasite Eve, released way before COVID turned the world upside down, and Ollie says it best, so I'll let him explain.
Parasite Eve, you know, it's like the dawn of a new kind of problem that mankind's going to face. Like I said, when I wrote it, obviously it was before COVID, and when COVID started happening, it was like, should we release this song? Is it offensive? I think after a couple of weeks of shelving it and trying to write other stuff and things progressing with the whole situation, I was like, oh no, I think people really need this actually.
I don't even know where to begin when describing this EP. One minute you've got Ollie telling a dog to shut the fuck up in the most Yorkshire accent possible. Shut the fuck up! Add to this the lore that the video game titan Hideo Kojima asked Bring Me to make a song for the upcoming Death Stranding video game, with the only catch being that they had 5 days to make it and they were on tour at the time as well. So what did they do? Bring Me set up a temporary studio in their hotel rooms and just blasted through it to make the deadline. Okay. And just for good measure, had a star-studded lineup of features consisting of Baby Metal's first ever English track, a collab with Mick Gordon, who was the composer for the Doom soundtrack, who assisted with the creation of Parasite Eve, and the emo goat Amy Lee of Evanescence. Like honestly, just watch this snippet of Mick Gordon and the levels of detail put into Parasite Eve. The EP explores themes of societal issues, human struggles, and existential reflections. The timing of the album was incredible, considering the world was going through a global pandemic at the time, and the topics discussed consisted of political unrest, the impact of technology on modern society, mental health, and the human condition, basically real-life issues that everyone was facing during the pandemic. Post-Human Survival Horror was met with praise by many critics, but the EP marked a new chapter in the band's discography. The EP set the stage for future releases under the Post-Human series, with the band planning on exploring even more musical styles and themes, which is showcased with their upcoming Post-Human Next Gen, which drops late September this year, with some of the singles being dropped so far ranging from hyper pop punk and Lost to some of the heaviest shit Bring Me has released in years with Amen. So what's next for Bring Me? Well, as mentioned, their focus is on Post-Human Next Gen, but coming off the back of headlining a sold-out download festival, a goal the band has had since they started performing at festivals, this is the biggest Bring Me has ever been. Adding to this the huge mainstream crossovers with artists such as Ed Sheeran, Lil Uzi Vert, and many more, Bring Me is set to become a household name if they aren't already. Add to this branching out with a clothing line, running a vegan-friendly bar and restaurant where they often hold super personal gigs for a lucky few. I will follow you. And the band certainly have their foot on the gas for at least another few years. Bring Me has shown that you don't have to stick to gatekeeping guidelines in order to be successful, and the band is paving the way for the next gen of artists, inspiring none more so than Bad Omens, who just so happened to be a feature on Bring Me's headline tour, another band that are experimenting with finding their own sound. Bad Omens' success seemed to happen overnight, with Just Pretend going viral on TikTok and putting the band into the mainstream eye, and starting 2024 off with supporting Bring Me the Horizon on their headline tour. But Bring Me the Horizon has been a long part of Bad Omens' history, with constant comparisons and obvious inspiration with their earlier music. So how did Bad Omens go from being labelled as a Bring Me the Horizon clone to, in my humble opinion, outshining Bring Me the Horizon on their own headlining tour? This is how Bad Omens are slowly going from being the student to possibly becoming the master. Formed as a band way back in 2015, but started as an idea deep in Noah Sebastian's mind in 2013, who, funnily enough, was dreaming of becoming a frontman while fulfilling his guitar duties with a band called Immoralist. This idea then turned into the Bad Omens that we all know and love today. But here's a fun fact, because I'm in a generous mood. Bad Omens wasn't the OG idea for the band's name. It was actually the title for the absolute banger track we know as Glass Houses. With the name all set, fast forward to 2016, and Bad Omens released their debut album, the self-titled Bad Omens, and this is still some of their best work to this day. But even first hearing that album, it was obvious that the band were heavily influenced by a certain Yorkshire band known as Bring Me the Horizon. I mean, seriously. You could hand me half of the songs off the Bad Omens self-titled album, and with a few beers down me, you'd convince me it was Bring Me going back to the Sempiternal ways.
But you're starting to slip, bring out the worst in me. It's like a sleepwalking,
Bad Omens released a solid fucking debut album with songs that I even listened to daily, but it was obvious Bad Omens were still trying to find their own style, and even more so, Noah was still holding back on tapping into his vocal skills. I mean, just comparing his live performances now to back then is light and day.
I don't wanna know all your secrets, there's hotel. It's hard enough being alone with myself. I don't know how I'll be holding on.
I don't personally agree with it, but Noah himself said during his latest album Watch Party that he only just really learned to sing over the last few years.
I kind of sucked at singing until like 2 years ago, in my opinion, and I still feel like I have a lot of ways to go. But yeah, I just kind of taught myself, and I had tips I picked up here and there from people along the way.
I don't know if it was necessarily a lack of skill. I just think the band went into full zen mode, and Noah just thought fuck it and started experimenting with his vocal range. Bad Omens self-titled was a solid all-around metalcore album, and considering it was the band's debut, it was a good way to kick off their career. It was well received by critics, but one common theme kept popping up: constant comparisons to Bring Me the Horizon. And just being honest here, I can absolutely see why. I mean, listen to the vocal structure and guitar tones during Reprise and Shadow Moses, and you'll know what I mean.
I wanna feel love! I wanna feel love again!
Got so loud that Noah actually addressed the comparisons during an interview with Flipper Music, saying, while it can be flattering due to what a game-changing album Sempiternal was, and a great band that Bring Me the Horizon are, it's definitely frustrating how often our work and creativity is compared to just one album, especially considering when some of our songs were written and how much influence we draw from so many other artists. I can see his point, but I think if he looks back now, especially with how their sound has completely changed, they may have been inspired more by Bring Me the Horizon than they initially thought, though they did cite other bands such as Linkin Park, Deftones, Slipknot, and Disturbed as influences of the band, and others that would later blossom heavily into the band's DNA, like The Weeknd, for example.
Taking notes of my keyboard, what you bothering me for? I made another mistake, thought I could change, thought I could make it out.
Now, this isn't a history of Bad Omens video, so I'm not going to go too deep. So let's fast forward to 2022, when Bad Omens dropped probably their most life-changing album, The Death of Peace of Mind. Not only was this album some of their best work objectively, but it also had one song on it specifically that took them to a completely new level of fame. Love or hate TikTok, you can't deny it's done some fucking incredible things for bands, taking them from selling out small shows to literally selling out arenas. Once a song goes viral, things can change for a band overnight, which is exactly what happened to Bad Omens. Just Pretend went viral, causing Bad Omens to go viral along with it, instantly seeing their monthly Spotify listeners skyrocket and a whole new audience being brought into the band's life. Yes, it might have been a case of right place, right time, but you cannot deny the band's evolution to put them in that spot to go viral.
I wrote that song in January 2019. There's no goal to get it on the radio or a playlist. We just like to make music. Yeah, so last night we just realizing that a song that was written to like poke fun at how easy it is to make radio rock is now #1 on the Radio Rock charts is like the most ironic full circle moment this band will probably ever have.
Compare Self-Titled to The Death of Peace of Mind. I'm not saying Noah's vocals were bad before, but he completely changed and revolutionized his vocal capabilities, and in doing that, the band became way more accessible, meaning they could be pushed to a much wider audience. This newfound traction led them to play bigger shows and really push the band into the mainstream, which brings me to the whole point of this video, which I'll probably get a ton of shit for, but I genuinely think Bad Omens will become a better live band than Bring Me the Horizon. Let me explain. Consistent touring and bloody hard work have meant that Bad Omens live shows are unbelievably close to their studio recordings, and that plays a huge factor into why they are so fucking good live. I mean, a few weeks ago, I went to the Posthuman Next Gen tour, which was headlined by Bring Me the Horizon with support from Bad Omens, and anyone who's been around the channel for a while knows I'm one of the biggest Bring Me the Horizon fanboys around. But I have a confession, I actually preferred Bad Omens' set. Bring Me's show was still incredible, and I've literally never seen stage production as insane as Bring Me's was, but Bad Omens blew me away, and I think there's a few reasons why. Like I said before, their live shows have become so close to the studio recordings, and I mean this in the most respectful way, but I think the simplicity of their songs really helps that. For example, The Throne is one of their biggest songs and probably the most entertaining performed live, but technically, specifically to the guitar portions, it's probably one of their easiest songs to play, and isn't too complex where it doesn't translate to a live performance. By doing this, it allows Noah to really flex his vocal skills. With Bring Me, a lot of their songs are more experimental, and while they sound amazing when listening to the studio version, when performed live, they don't have the same impact on me personally. Bring Me's stage production is incredible, but Bad Omens aren't too far behind this early in their career. They've taken a lot of inspiration from Bring Me in that department, and while they've still got a long way to go, they've already begun implementing it into their own headline shows, as you can see from the most recent tour happening right now. Do I believe that Bad Omens will be a bigger live band than Bring Me the Horizon? Honestly, no. But I really hope I'm wrong. Bring Me has been around for so long and has reinvented itself so many times that it's hard to compete with. But do I think Bad Omens will be a better live show experience than Bring Me the Horizon in the future? Absolutely. And I think Bring Me sees this potential too, which is why they chose them to be their support act on the Posthuman Next Gen tour. Listen, this is only my opinion, and fuck me, I guess.